Tom stood on the landing platform, holding his small travel case and looking out over the bright city of Valora. The air shimmered with light reflected from the crystal towers that reached into the pale blue sky. Every building seemed alive, shining with soft colors that shifted like waves. He had seen pictures of the alien world before, but seeing it in person made his chest feel light. Earth had sent him here as part of the first scientific exchange. He was the youngest engineer on the mission, and though he had studied for years, he had never been this far from home. When the transport doors opened, a tall figure approached him. Her skin had a soft silver glow, and her eyes were a deep, clear blue that reflected the light of the city. She wore a white uniform with smooth lines and a small crystal badge that pulsed faintly. Her steps were graceful and soundless. Tom straightened, trying not to look nervous. The alien woman stopped in front of him and spoke in a calm, melodic voice. "Welcome, human visitor. I am Leary of the Valoran Science Institute. I will guide you to your assigned work sector." Tom blinked, realizing this was the partner mentioned in his mission report. He quickly smiled and extended his hand. "Hi, I'm Tom. It's great to meet you." Leary looked at his hand, tilting her head slightly. After a moment, she copied his gesture and lightly touched his palm. Her skin was cool, almost like polished stone. She drew her hand back and gave a small nod. "Your custom of physical greeting is interesting. It shows trust through contact." "Yeah," Tom said, trying to sound relaxed. "It's a friendly way to start." She turned, motioning for him to follow. They walked through the bright corridors of the spaceport. The walls glowed faintly with gentle light, and the floor felt soft under his boots. Outside the windows, Tom saw floating transports moving in perfect order above the streets. Every part of the city seemed quiet, balanced, and clean. It was beautiful in a way that made him forget to breathe. "You will live in the research quarters," Leary said as they entered a tall building. "Each visitor has a private room with Earth conditions. You are scheduled to begin your work tomorrow morning." Tom nodded, looking around as they stepped into a lift that moved without sound. He tried to act confident, but his mind was racing. He had read about the Valorans, their calm minds, their advanced science, their focus on logic over emotion. He didn't want to make a bad impression. When they reached the top floor, Leary led him into a bright room with clear walls showing the entire city below. The view made him smile without thinking. "This is incredible," he said. "The light, the colors, it's all so alive." Leary turned toward him. "To us, light is harmony. The crystals balance energy and emotion. They respond to calm thought." Tom stepped closer to the glass, then turned to her. "Well, it's beautiful. He stopped. The word slipped out before he could stop himself. "You're gorgeous." The air went still. Leary blinked once. The faint blue glow in her eyes brightened and her silver cheeks turned a pale pink color. She looked at him with a mix of confusion and curiosity. For a second, Tom thought she might be offended. He opened his mouth to apologize, but she spoke first. "Say it again, human." Her voice was quiet but firm. Tom hesitated, his face warming. I didn't mean to be rude. It just came out." "I am not offended," Leary said. "I wish to understand. The word you used, gorgeous, what does it mean exactly?" Tom scratched the back of his neck. "It's a compliment. It means very beautiful, in a special way. It's what humans say when something or someone looks amazing." Leary blinked again. Her pink blush deepened slightly. "So you believe I am amazing to look at?" Tom felt his ears burn. "I guess I do, yes. I'm sorry if that's strange." She looked down at the glowing data pad in her hand, her voice softer now. "No apology is required. I am interested. We do not use words like this on Valora. We describe form, symmetry, or balance, but not emotional beauty." She tapped something on her data pad and said quietly, "Compliments are a form of emotional communication among humans, noted." Tom laughed nervously. "You're really turning this into research, huh?" Leary looked up again, her expression unreadable. "Everything we learn is part of understanding. Humans appear to connect emotion and expression strongly. That may explain your creativity." Tom smiled, a little more relaxed now. "Maybe. We do feel things deeply. It helps us build, imagine, and sometimes say things without thinking." Leary considered this for a moment. "Then your words may reveal more truth than you intend." He wasn't sure what to say to that. The silence between them felt light, not awkward. Outside, the city lights shimmered like stars under the glass ceiling. Tom noticed how her reflection appeared beside his in the window, two figures from different worlds standing in the same glow. For a strange reason, it made him feel less alone. After a moment, Leary turned toward the inner hall. Your rest cycle begins soon. I will return in the morning for your orientation. All right, Tom said. Thank you, Leary. She paused at the door. Tom, she said, testing the sound of his name carefully. Humans use first names as signs of closeness, correct? He nodded. Yes, it means friendship or respect. Then I will use it, she said. Her eyes met his for a second before she left. The door closed quietly behind her. Tom sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the soft light panels that changed color with the time of day. He let out a slow breath. He had just called an alien scientist gorgeous by mistake, and instead of getting angry, she had asked him to say it again. He wasn't sure what that meant, but it felt like the beginning of something strange and wonderful. The next morning, Leary returned exactly on schedule. She brought a small tablet containing the research plans for their joint project. The goal was to combine human fusion energy with Valoran crystal systems to create a stable power source for both worlds. Tom found the challenge exciting, but he was more curious about working beside her again. Leary moved with quiet confidence, explaining each diagram with calm clarity. Her speech was formal but kind, and she always watched him closely, studying his reactions. As they worked, she asked, On Earth, do humans often express admiration without reason? Tom smiled. Sometimes. It's not always logical, but it's honest. Honest emotion, she repeated thoughtfully. That is a rare concept here. We measure truth by data, not by feeling. Tom shrugged. Maybe both can show truth. Feelings can tell us what matters most. Leary looked at the glowing crystal on the table. Perhaps that is why humans see beauty where others see only form. She turned toward him again. If I used your word for something, would it be correct? He nodded. Sure, try it. She looked around thinking, then pointed to the light shining through the crystal wall. That view is gorgeous, Tom grinned. Perfect. You got it, she smiled faintly, satisfied. Then she added, I understand now. The word is not only about appearance. It carries feeling. When you said it to me, it contained emotion. Tom's heart skipped. I guess it did. Leary nodded slowly. Then perhaps your mistake was also your truth. He didn't know how to answer. The room filled with quiet light, and for the first time Leary's calm tone softened into warmth. She seemed more alive, her usual steady rhythm replaced with something gentle. Tom realized that even without emotion, the Valorans had a quiet grace. But when feeling entered their world, it made their light shine differently. When they finished their session, Leary recorded a short note in her log. Observation. Verbal emotion alters focus and response in both participants. Further study required. She glanced at Tom and added softly, You may continue to use such words if they help your comfort. Tom laughed. I'll try to keep them scientific. She gave him a look he couldn't quite read but seemed amused. Science and feeling may not be so different after all. That night, Tom stood again by the window of his quarters. The city below glowed with silver and blue, moving like a calm ocean of light. He thought about his first day, about how a simple word had created a connection stronger than any formal exchange. For centuries, humans had dreamed of meeting intelligent life among the stars, hoping to prove their worth through knowledge and invention. Yet now he wondered if humanity's real power was something simpler, the ability to feel, to speak from the heart without a plan. On Valora, where logic ruled everything, a single honest word had changed the air between two worlds. Tom smiled quietly to himself, unaware that Leary, standing in her own chamber across the city, was also looking at the same stars and writing in her notes. Humans express light through emotion. Further observation recommended. The experiment had only just begun. The next few days passed quietly for Tom as he adjusted to life on Valora. Every morning the city glowed with pale sunlight that seemed to rise from the ground instead of the sky. The streets were filled with gentle hums of floating transports and the sound of energy crystals pulsing in rhythm. The air felt clean and cool, and everything moved in an organized flow. There was no shouting, no rushing, and no noise of engines. For someone from Earth, it felt like living inside a dream that never broke. Leary met him each morning at the research center. She was always punctual, always calm, and always focused. Her voice never rose, and her movements were so smooth that she almost seemed to glide instead of walk. Tom tried to match her professional attitude, but he found himself smiling too much, especially when she tilted her head slightly while thinking. He had never met anyone quite like her. She was logical and curious, yet behind that calm surface there was a warmth he couldn't ignore. Their shared lab was large and full of light. Transparent walls allowed the sun to pass through, making the crystals on every table shine with soft color. Each crystal reacted differently depending on the tools they used or the thoughts they shared. The Valorans believed crystals responded to calmness, but Tom began to notice that emotion also had an effect. When he was excited about an idea, the crystals seemed to glow a little brighter. When he was tired, the light dimmed slightly. Leary noticed this too. "You create emotional waves that affect the crystals," she said one morning while taking readings from a monitor. "Our instruments have never shown such patterns." Tom leaned on the table, looking at the soft blue light coming from one of the energy stones. "Maybe they like me," he said with a grin. Leary looked at him, puzzled. "Crystals do not form emotional attachments." "It was a joke," Tom explained. "Humans sometimes say things that aren't literal just for fun." "I see," she said, noting something on her datapad. "So humor is a method of shared understanding through false statement." "That's one way to put it," Tom said, trying not to laugh. "You could say humor is how humans make things feel lighter." Leary nodded thoughtfully. "Interesting. I will study this further." As they continued their work, Tom noticed that Leary kept asking about human language. She wanted to understand the way emotions shaped words. She asked him to explain the meaning of kind, sweet, and lovely. Then she returned to the word that had started everything. "You used the word gorgeous on the first day," she said as they adjusted the crystal settings. "I would like to understand how it compares to other similar words." Tom hesitated, remembering that moment. "Well, pretty means nice to look at. Beautiful means something that makes you feel peaceful or amazed. But gorgeous means both of those things and more. It's strong. It means something or someone looks so good that it makes you feel warm inside." Leary looked thoughtful. "So the difference is intensity. The word gorgeous carries greater emotional weight." "That's right," Tom said. "It's not just about appearance. It's about the feeling it gives you." Leary nodded. "You connect words with emotion. Our language connects words with function." "Yeah," Tom said. "Humans like to mix logic and feeling. Sometimes that makes things complicated, but it also makes them real." Leary's blue eyes glowed faintly. "Perhaps that is what gives your kind such creativity. You express what you feel rather than only what you calculate." Tom smiled. "Maybe that's why you invited humans here." She gave a small nod. "It is part of the reason. We seek to learn how emotion shapes energy and thought." During lunch breaks, Leary often walked with Tom through the Institute's gardens. The plants there were unlike anything on Earth. Tall, thin trees with glass-like leaves that chimed softly when the wind moved. Pools of clear water reflected the sunlight into bright patterns across the paths. Valoran workers moved silently among the trees, maintaining the environment with care. Every step felt peaceful. One afternoon, as they sat beside one of the shining pools, Leary asked, "Do humans often say compliments to one another?" Tom thought for a moment. "Yes, a lot of people do. It's a way to show kindness or appreciation." She tilted her head. "Does it change the way people behave?" "It can," Tom said. "A kind word can make someone smile. It can make their day better. It shows that they're seen." Leary looked at her reflection in the water. "Valorans rarely speak in that way. We focus on purpose and harmony, not personal appearance. We do not wish to disturb emotional balance." "But balance can include happiness too," Tom said. "Compliments aren't about disturbing balance. They're about connection." Leary looked at him curiously. "Then connection is more important than calmness?" "Sometimes," Tom said. "It depends on what kind of world you want. A perfect balance might feel safe, but connection makes life meaningful." Leary was silent for a while, watching the water move. Finally, she said, "On Valora, emotion is seen as unpredictable. But your words suggest unpredictability can create beauty." Tom smiled. "Exactly." Later that day, they returned to the lab to continue their energy project. The goal was to stabilize a new type of crystal reactor that could blend human fusion energy with Valoran resonance. Leary handled the technical mapping while Tom worked on power calibration. As he adjusted the control pad, he accidentally brushed his arm against one of the glowing stones. It pulsed brightly, much stronger than before. Leary turned quickly, her expression alert. "What did you do?" she asked. "I'm not sure," Tom said. "I just touched it." She scanned the readings and frowned in concentration. "It reacted to your contact." "That is unusual." Perhaps your energy frequency interacts differently. Tom looked at his hand. Maybe it liked me again. Leary's lips curved slightly upward. That was humor again, correct? He laughed. Yeah, you're getting good at this. She smiled faintly, almost proud of her understanding. Thank you. I am learning your human expressions. He nodded. You're doing great. Leary paused at that, then looked down at her datapad. That phrase, you're doing great, it is another form of compliment. It is, Tom said. It's a way of saying someone is doing well. It makes them feel appreciated. She typed something quickly. I understand. Compliments encourage emotional growth. Tom watched her, amused. You could say that. When they finished their shift, Leary stopped at the door. Before you leave, may I try a compliment? Tom smiled. Of course. She looked thoughtful for a moment, then said carefully, You are acceptable. Tom tried not to laugh. That's close, but not quite right. Acceptable means something meets the standard, but it's not really a compliment. Her silver cheeks colored slightly pink again. Then I will try again tomorrow. The next day, Leary returned with a determined expression. As they began their work, she said, Tom, your explanations are clear and effective. You are a capable partner. That's better, Tom said, smiling. That one actually felt nice. Leary noted the reaction. So emotional response confirms compliment success. Tom chuckled. You make it sound like a science experiment. It is a science experiment, she said, serious as always. Understanding human emotion may help improve our technology. If emotions influence crystal resonance, then compliments may be part of energy balance. That's a fun idea, Tom said. Imagine a world powered by kindness. Leary looked up. A world powered by kindness would have endless light. Her words hung in the air for a moment. The way she said them was calm, but the meaning felt deeper. Tom met her eyes and saw a quiet spark that wasn't there before. Maybe emotion was starting to change her too. That evening, Tom returned to his quarters feeling lighter. He looked out over the city again. The lights shimmered across the horizon like living stars. He thought about Leary practicing compliments as if they were equations, carefully choosing words to match his language. But beneath all that precision, he could sense something else, something warm and curious that she didn't fully understand yet. Across the city, in her own quiet chamber, Leary reviewed her daily notes. Her datapad displayed a list of phrases and reactions. Beautiful produces positive response. Capable produces pride and warmth. Acceptable, ineffective compliment. She stopped typing for a moment and stared out at the lights beyond her window. The sky was filled with floating energy lines connecting towers and soft blue webs. She wondered why her chest felt slightly warm when she remembered Tom's smile. It was an unfamiliar feeling, but not unpleasant. She added one final note. Compliments are not only communication. They may also create new emotional resonance between two beings. Observation. Repeated interaction with human subject increases internal warmth. Then, for reasons she could not explain, she whispered quietly to herself, You are gorgeous. The crystal light near her desk flickered softly, glowing brighter than before. By the third week, Tom had settled into life on Valora completely. The days passed in quiet rhythm, filled with work, discovery, and strange new friendships. He had learned the flow of the city, the polite gestures of greeting, and even how to order food in the Valoran way. The food looked like crystals but tasted soft and refreshing. Every meal left him feeling light. Still, what he enjoyed most was his time in the lab with Leary. Their project had begun to attract attention. Other scientists often passed by their workspace, curious about the reports spreading through the institute. They had discovered that human emotion could affect crystal behavior. For Valerans, this was something unheard of. Their science had always been based on logic and structure. Feelings had never been a part of it. On a clear morning, Leary entered the lab with 2 energy stones glowing faintly in her hands. Her calm voice carried a hint of excitement. Tom, I prepared new crystals for testing. These ones are more sensitive to resonance changes. We may be able to measure the emotional effect more accurately. Tom smiled as he looked at her. Great. Let's see what happens when a human gets sentimental again. She placed the crystals on the table, arranging them side by side. We will compare energy output when you express neutral thought and when you express emotion. Please begin by thinking of a simple number. Tom nodded, focusing his thoughts. Okay, number 5. The crystals remained stable, their light steady. Leary made a note on her datapad. No change. Now express an emotional phrase. Tom thought for a moment, then looked at her with a small smile. Leary, you are beautiful. The crystals pulsed softly, their light growing brighter by several shades. Leary's eyes widened. The resonance increased by 12%, he laughed. Looks like compliments really do have power. She looked down at the readings, then back at him. Your words cause a measurable shift in energy. This cannot be coincidence, Tom leaned forward. Maybe the crystals respond to emotions the same way humans do. When someone says something kind, it makes everything glow a little brighter. Leary gave him a thoughtful look. Your way of speaking is simple, but the meaning is deep. You think emotion is energy? Maybe it is, Tom said. Maybe feelings are another kind of power that can connect us all. She wrote quickly on her tablet. Emotional power. That may become a new field of study. Over the next few hours, they tested different emotions. When Tom spoke with kindness, the crystals shone bright. When he spoke in a flat voice, they dimmed. When he spoke about hope, they released a faint humming sound that filled the room like soft music. The discovery was strange but beautiful. Leary recorded everything carefully, her focus sharp but her tone lighter than usual. At one point, she looked up from her notes. Tom, do you think emotion is stronger because it cannot be controlled? Tom thought for a moment. Maybe. Feelings aren't supposed to be controlled. They're supposed to be felt. That's what makes them real. Leary nodded slowly. On Valora, we are taught to balance thought and feeling, but we choose silence when emotion grows. Perhaps that silence has limited us, Tom smiled. Then maybe it's time to make a little noise. She tilted her head. Noise? It means to express what you feel, even if it surprises others, he explained. Sometimes noise brings change. Leary looked at the glowing crystals and said quietly, Then this noise brings light. They continued their tests for several days. The results were consistent. Emotion created measurable energy shifts. The Veleran scientists began to gather around their lab to observe. Some were skeptical, others fascinated. Leary explained each result clearly. But when Tom spoke, the reactions often amazed the audience. His natural warmth seemed to affect not just the crystals but also the people watching. One afternoon, as they prepared for another session, Leary looked unusually thoughtful. Tom, she said softly, may I ask something personal? Of course, he replied. When you first called me gorgeous, did you mean it only as an experiment of emotion, or was it your true feeling? Tom blinked. The question caught him off guard. He hesitated, then said honestly, It was real. I didn't plan to say it. It just happened. Leary's silver cheeks warmed slightly, turning soft pink. I understand. Your emotions are honest even when not intended. That may be why the crystals react. He smiled gently. Maybe honesty has its own kind of energy. She looked at the glowing stones and then back at him. Perhaps that is what our people have been missing. Later that week, Leary invited Tom to a special test chamber deeper in the institute. The chamber was large and filled with floating panels of light. At its center stood a tall crystal structure that hummed faintly. It looked like a tower of glass waves stacked upon each other. Leary explained that it was the Harmony Core, the central device that balanced energy across the research district. We will test human emotional resonance on a large scale, she said. If emotion can influence this core, it could mean new ways to power our cities. Tom's eyes widened. You want me to talk to that thing? Yes, she replied simply. Speak as you did before. Express a feeling. Tom stepped forward. The room felt quiet and sacred. The crystal tower shimmered faintly, waiting. He took a slow breath. All right, he said softly. Let's try something. He looked at the glowing structure and thought about Earth. The oceans, the forests, the endless sky. He thought about how far he had traveled, about humanity's hope to be understood. Then he thought of Leary, her calm strength, her curiosity, her kindness. A feeling of warmth rose in his chest. You are all so amazing, he said, his voice steady. This world, this light, and you, Leary, you are truly gorgeous. The entire crystal tower flared with golden light. The hum grew into a pure tone that filled the air like music. The walls reflected the glow, and even Leary stepped back, eyes wide with wonder. The energy level just increased by 40%, she whispered. This is impossible. Tom turned toward her, smiling. Maybe it's not impossible. Maybe it's human. The tower continued to glow for several moments before slowly dimming again. Leary looked at the data readings on her tablet, speechless. Then she turned toward him. Your emotion resonated through the core. It responded as if alive. Looks like the experiment worked, he said. She nodded, her eyes bright. It worked beyond all expectation. That evening, when the testing ended, they walked together along the luminous paths outside the institute. The city lights shimmered softly under the sky. Fellerins moved quietly around them, their steps soundless on the crystal streets. Leary held her datapad close, still studying the results. Your emotions create patterns no Valoran has ever seen, she said. It is more than science. It is art. Tom looked up at the stars. Back on Earth, people used to say that love and curiosity are what push us to explore. Maybe that's what's happening here. We're discovering how feelings can shape the universe. Leary walked beside him, her usual calm voice touched by something new. I once thought emotion was a distraction from truth. Now I think it may be part of truth itself. Tom smiled. Then you're learning the most human lesson there is. They stopped near a bridge of glowing crystal arches. The light reflected on Leary's silver skin, making her look like part of the stars themselves. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence between them felt full, not empty. Finally, Leary said quietly, when you speak with emotion, the light changes. When I listen, I feel warmth that I cannot explain. I believe your kind brings more than knowledge to the stars. You bring feeling. Tom met her gaze. Maybe that's why we're here. To remind the universe that it can feel alive. She looked at him for a long moment, then gave a rare smile. Then let us continue to teach it. That night, Leary stayed late in her private lab, reviewing every piece of data. The numbers confirmed what she already felt. Emotion created measurable energy. But there was something else, something unmeasurable. When she remembered Tom's words, her heart seemed to pulse softly, just like the crystals did. She added one final note in her report. The human emotional field can transform energy patterns. Observation. The phrase "you are gorgeous" produces strongest resonance. Hypothesis. Connection between speaker and listener amplifies effect. She paused before closing her notes, then whispered to herself, say it again. Human. The small crystal on her desk flickered, glowing warmly in response. The discovery spread through the Valoran Science Institute faster than anyone expected. Within a week, almost every scientist on the planet had heard of the strange human whose emotions could make crystals glow brighter. News networks called it the resonance phenomenon. For a people who had always believed logic ruled all things, it was a mystery that challenged everything they knew. Tom and Leary spent long days in the lab, repeating their experiments for visiting researchers. The same result appeared again and again. When Tom spoke kindly or showed warmth, the crystals responded. When he spoke without feeling, they stayed dim. It was no longer luck. It was real. Many Valorans found it difficult to accept. Some said the readings were errors. Others thought Tom was secretly using human technology. But a few believed it was something deeper, something new. Leary stood firmly in that group. Every test, every note she took strengthened her belief that human emotion was not a weakness but a force that connected life itself. One morning, while they were analyzing new data, Leary received a message on her datapad. The screen glowed with the golden seal of the Valoran High Council. She read the words carefully, then looked at Tom with a calm but serious expression. The council has requested our presence tomorrow, she said. They wish to see a demonstration. Tom raised his eyebrows. The council? You mean the leaders of your world? She nodded. Yes, they oversee all major scientific research. They wish to verify that our results are genuine. He let out a slow breath. Sounds important. It is, she said softly. It may decide how our people view your kind for centuries. The weight of her words sank in. Tom knew this was more than a scientific test now. It was a moment that could shape the relationship between two civilizations. He nodded slowly. All right, let's make it count. That night, Tom couldn't sleep. He stood by the wide glass window in his quarters, looking at the shimmering city below. He thought about how far humanity had come, from dreaming about the stars to standing among them. He also thought about Leary, about her calm voice and her growing warmth. She was still different from any human, yet there was something deeply familiar about her. She listened, she learned, she cared. The distance between their worlds no longer felt so great. The next morning, the sky above Valora was clear. Soft light filled the streets as Leary and Tom walked toward the council tower, a tall structure made of white crystal that glowed like a sunbeam frozen in place. They entered through a silent hall where light moved across the walls like living water. Several guards in silver uniforms guided them to the central chamber. The High Council sat in a semicircle at the front. There were 6 of them, each wearing long robes that shimmered with faint color. Their faces were calm, almost expressionless, but their eyes were sharp and intelligent. The head of the council, Elder Siren, spoke first. "Leary of Valora and Tom of Earth," he said in a deep, clear voice, "we have reviewed your reports. They speak of emotional energy influencing crystal resonance. Such a claim is unprecedented. You will now demonstrate your findings." Leary bowed respectfully. "Yes, Elder Siren, we are prepared." Tom followed her to the center of the chamber where a large crystal device stood. It was connected to floating monitors that displayed energy readings. Leary placed her hands lightly on the control panel. "This crystal has been calibrated to neutral state," she explained. "It will measure resonance changes in response to human emotion." The council members watched in silence. Leary turned to Tom. "You may begin." Tom took a deep breath. He looked at the clear crystal in front of him. It was beautiful but lifeless, no color, no glow. He decided not to overthink it. He spoke simply, from the heart. "When I came to this world," he said, "I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. But I met someone who showed me kindness and patience. Leary, you helped me understand that different doesn't mean distant. You're not just intelligent, you're kind, graceful, and yes, you're gorgeous." The crystal brightened immediately. Its surface shimmered with soft gold light that filled the chamber. The monitors flickered, showing rapid spikes of energy. Gasps echoed from the council seats. Elder Siren leaned forward slightly, his calm mask breaking for a moment. "The readings are clear," Leary said, her voice steady but full of quiet pride. "The resonance level increased by 40% when the human expressed genuine emotion." Another council member asked, "Is this repeatable?" Leary nodded. "Yes, the results have been consistent in all our trials." Tom smiled. "If you want, I can prove it again." Leary looked at him, her eyes warm. "Please do." He turned back to the crystal, his tone gentle. "Leary, you're more than brilliant. You're the reason this discovery happened. Working with you has been the best part of my life." This time the crystal shone even brighter. The light spread outward, touching the walls and ceiling, filling the chamber with soft warmth. It wasn't harsh or blinding. It was beautiful, calm, and alive. The council sat in silent wonder. When the light faded, Elder Siren spoke again. "Remarkable. The energy is pure and stable. No machine on Valora has ever produced such harmony." Leary bowed her head slightly. "It is emotion, Elder. The energy of feeling, when honest, creates harmony." The Elder nodded slowly. "Then perhaps we have much to learn from humanity." After the demonstration, the council requested private discussion time. Tom and Leary waited outside the chamber, standing near a large window overlooking the city. Tom leaned against the wall, trying to relax. "Do you think they believed it?" "They cannot deny what they saw," Leary said. "The data was clear," Tom smiled faintly. "You sound confident." "I have faith in truth," she said. "And in you." He looked at her, surprised. "In me? Yes," she replied softly. "You showed them something no machine could create. You reminded us that science is not only logic, it is also wonder." Tom felt warmth spread through his chest. "You really mean that?" "I do," Leary said. "Emotion is not weakness. It is connection. You proved that." The council doors opened again, and an assistant motioned for them to enter. Elder Siren stood as they approached. "Your findings will be recorded in the Central Archive," he announced. "A new branch of research will be established, emotional resonance studies. We will explore this connection between energy and feeling with your guidance." Leary bowed. "Thank you, Elder." Siren looked at Tom. "Human, you have given us something rare. You have shown us that harmony can come not only from silence but from the heart." Tom bowed slightly, unsure of what to say. "I'm honored." When they left the tower, the sunlight was brighter than ever. The city seemed to glow with new color. As they walked along the crystal path, Leary turned to him. "You have changed how my world sees humanity." "That is no small thing," Tom laughed gently. "All I did was say how I felt." "And that," she said, "was enough to change everything." That evening, the Institute hosted a small celebration in their honor. Scientists from across the city came to congratulate them. The halls were filled with soft music, created by crystal instruments that responded to touch. The light around them pulsed in rhythm with the sounds. Leary stood beside Tom, greeting visitors with calm grace. For someone who once avoided emotional expression, she now seemed to glow with quiet pride. A young researcher approached her. "Leary, is it true the human's words can change the light itself?" "Yes," she replied. "But not just his words. His sincerity." The researcher looked at Tom. "You must feel proud." Tom smiled modestly, more amazed than proud. When the evening ended, most guests left and the halls grew quiet again. Leary and Tom remained by the balcony watching the sky. The stars shone bright and the city below sparkled like glass. Leary spoke softly. "Today, for the first time, I felt something new. When the crystal shone, I felt the same light inside myself. It was not logic. It was peace." Tom turned to her. "That's emotion. It's like light that comes from within." She looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "Then perhaps your emotion has reached me too," he smiled. "I think it has." They stood together for a long moment, saying nothing. The air was calm, filled with soft wind from the upper levels of the city. The stars reflected in Leary's eyes, and the glow of the crystals seemed to mirror the quiet warmth between them. Before they parted, Leary said quietly, "When I first met you, I thought emotion was a distraction. Now I believe it may be the most powerful form of energy in the universe." Tom smiled gently. "Then we're learning together." She looked at him, her voice warm and clear. "Say it again, human." He chuckled softly. "You're gorgeous." The balcony lights flickered brighter in response, as if the city itself had learned to blush. Months passed after the council's approval, and the world of Valora began to change in quiet but beautiful ways. The discovery of emotional resonance had started as a small experiment between two unlikely partners. Now it was transforming science, energy, and even culture. For the first time, Valorans were studying not just logic, but the power of feeling. Leary and Tom became the leading figures of a new research institute called the Center for Empathic Science, built at the edge of the Crystal City. The building itself shimmered with colors that changed, depending on the emotions of those inside. The walls glowed soft blue during peaceful moments and golden during joy. Every visitor who stepped in felt a calm warmth, like sunlight after rain. Tom had grown used to life on Valora. He still missed Earth sometimes, the smell of rain, the sound of birds. But the alien world no longer felt strange. He had friends now, and most importantly, he had Leary. Their friendship had become something quiet but strong, like a thread of light that never dimmed. They worked together daily, exploring how human emotions interacted with the Valoran crystal systems. One morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, Tom entered the lab to find Leary standing near the largest crystal core. Its surface shimmered faintly as she adjusted a few settings on the control panel. She turned when she heard him. "Good morning, Tom," she said, her voice calm and warm. "You are early," he smiled. "Couldn't sleep. My mind was full of ideas again." She tilted her head slightly, amused. "That happens often with you." Tom laughed softly. "Guilty as charged." "What are you working on?" "I am refining the harmonic filters," Leary said. "If we can stabilize emotional resonance for longer periods, we could use it as a clean energy source. No waste, no pollution. That would change everything," Tom said, stepping beside her. "For both our worlds," Leary nodded. "Yes. The council has already approved test stations across the city. If this works, we could share the technology with Earth as well." Tom watched the crystal pulse gently. "Hard to believe all this started because I said one silly thing." Leary looked at him with soft amusement. "It was not silly. It was honest. Honesty is the first step toward connection." He smiled. "I guess so." Over the next few weeks, they worked day and night to complete their final experiment, a full-scale emotional resonance generator that could power half the city. The structure stood in the center of the Institute's courtyard, surrounded by clear panels that captured and focused energy from the crystals. Hundreds of Valoran and human researchers had gathered to help. As they prepared for the final test, excitement filled the air. Scientists recorded data, technicians adjusted settings, and students whispered eagerly among themselves. It was the first time in Valoran history that a machine would run on something as simple and natural as emotion. Leary stood beside Tom at the control console. Are you ready? She asked. Tom nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. She placed her hand on the activation switch but hesitated for a moment. The energy will respond best to sincerity, she reminded him. You must focus on how you feel. Tom took a deep breath and looked at the crystal core. He thought of his journey. From the first day he had stepped onto Valora, unsure and clumsy, to this moment where two worlds stood united by light and trust. He thought of Lyri, her patience, her curiosity, and the way her calm voice could make even silence feel alive. He smiled, his heart steady. Lyri, you are the most remarkable person I have ever met. You taught me more than science. You showed me what understanding really means. The crystal responded instantly. It brightened, sending ripples of golden light across the courtyard. Monitors beeped as energy levels surged higher than anyone predicted. The crowd gasped as the glow spread outward, climbing the walls, reaching the sky. Lyri turned to him, her silver skin glowing softly. Say it again, human, he grinned. You are gorgeous, Lyri. The crystal flared in radiant gold, brighter than ever before. The light flowed like liquid through the air, touching every person nearby. For a moment, the entire city seemed alive, glowing with shared warmth. Buildings, streets, even the rivers reflected the light. It was as if Valora itself was smiling. Scientists hurried to record the readings, but most paused simply to watch. There was something more than numbers happening. People felt calm, connected, at peace. No words were needed. Everyone understood the meaning of the light. It was harmony born from emotion. When the glow slowly faded, the courtyard erupted in soft applause. The machine hummed steadily, now powered fully by emotional resonance. It was stable, clean, and endless. The impossible had become real. Lyri looked at the readings, then at Tom. It worked, she said softly. We did it. Tom let out a long breath of relief and joy. We really did. Later that evening, as the city celebrated the success, Tom and Lyri stood on the same balcony where they had once watched the stars in silence. Below them, the street sparkled with light from the new generator. It wasn't harsh or mechanical. It glowed like sunrise. Lyri leaned slightly on the railing, her eyes following the golden trails running through the city. Our world feels different tonight, she said. Brighter, alive, Tom nodded. Maybe because now it has a bit of humanity in it, she smiled. And a bit of Valora in you, he laughed gently. That's fair. They stood quietly for a moment, listening to the faint hum of the generator in the distance. The energy it produced wasn't just power. It carried a peaceful rhythm, like a heartbeat shared between two worlds. Lyri turned toward him. The Council has asked me to lead the interplanetary research program. They wish to share our work with Earth scientists. That's wonderful, Tom said. You'll be amazing at it, she looked at him thoughtfully. I would like you to co-lead it with me. The research began with both of us. It should continue that way. Tom blinked in surprise. You mean I'd stay here? If you wish, she said softly. You have become part of our world. Many Velorans have learned from you, and I have too. Tom looked at her for a long moment. I'd like that, Lyri. I'd like to stay. A small smile touched her lips. Then it is decided. As night settled, the stars shone brighter than usual. It was as if the universe itself had noticed the change. Far beyond Valora, messages were already being sent to Earth about the success of the emotional resonance generator. The two planets would soon begin a new era of cooperation. Scientists, artists, and explorers would travel between the worlds, carrying ideas, stories, and understanding. Weeks later, the first Earth delegation arrived. They were amazed by what they saw, a city powered by light that responded to kindness. When Tom and Lyri demonstrated the generator to them, the same golden glow filled the air. The humans and Valorans stood side by side, united by shared wonder. During the presentation, a young human scientist whispered to Tom, "You've changed history." Tom smiled. "No, we just learned to listen to each other." As years passed, the discovery reshaped both civilizations. Earth adopted resonance technology, ending the need for polluting fuels. Velorans, once quiet and reserved, began embracing emotional expression. Schools taught empathy alongside logic. Music, art, and laughter became as valued as equations. The partnership between Tom and Lyri continued to inspire everyone. Their friendship became a symbol of hope, that two beings from different worlds could create harmony not through power, but through understanding. One evening, after another long day of research, they walked through the Institute gardens. The crystals along the path glowed with soft gold, responding to their presence. Leary looked at the glowing flowers and said, "When I was young, I believed perfection meant silence. Now I see it means balance," Tom smiled. "And balance means emotion and reason together." "Yes," she said quietly, "and perhaps that is what our worlds needed most." They stopped near the center of the garden where a new monument stood, a tall crystal engraved with both Valoran and human symbols. At its base, an inscription read, "Light grows strongest when shared." Leary looked at it and then at Tom. "That was your phrase," she said. He nodded. "I meant it. The light isn't just energy, it's connection," she smiled. "Then say it again, human." Tom laughed softly, meeting her gaze. "You are gorgeous, Leary." The crystals around them glowed brighter once more, bathing them in warm light. It wasn't magic or technology. It was a reminder of what they had created together. A bridge of emotion strong enough to light the stars. As the night deepened and the city shone peacefully below, Tom realized humanity had not just reached the stars. They had touched another heart. And in that connection, they had found something even greater than discovery. They had found harmony.